Hi there YouTube, I am back after a quite sizable time, probably about a year. I kind of went through a sort of a period of probably about half a year of kind of not really going off of painting, but just not really producing much sort of continuity. I was just painting odds and sods and building terrain and just sort of generally sort of quite mundane stuff, just to sort of, because I find painting very relaxing, and it's the same with sort of building MDF buildings and stuff as well. I was still into painting, but my sort of wargaming had fallen off a little bit, and I kind of had less motivation to sort of paint armies and stuff. But obviously I have been painting. I've got loads of stuff built up, and hopefully I'll continue this trend of getting some more videos out. But today, probably about a month ago, a long time ago, maybe sort of five years ago maybe, I brought my very first set of Dystopian wars. And the thing that sort of interested me about that was, because I'm not generally sort of a hardcore sort of steampunk fan, but I am quite a big fan of sort of naval combat, and I heard about it and went onto YouTube and watched a few sort of battle reports and stuff, and I really fell in love with it. And literally, I think it was maybe a month after I sort of had first discovered it, they brought out their very first sort of starter set, which was Operation Shadow Hunter. I think this was about 5 years ago. Let's just move the camera up a little bit. So this was the very first set that I got, and I actually thought this set was amazing value for money when it first came out. I think it was about £70, and you basically get two fleets, one for the American force, or the sort of I can't remember what they're called, Confederation of America, is it? No, Federated States of America. Here we go. So Federated States of America and the Japanese, the Empire of the Blazing Sun. You get a full rule book, you get all the stuff you need to play, and this set just was kind of a blessing really, because I almost immediately snapped it up, and unfortunately, for some bizarre reason, I just could not get into the groove of what sort of colour scheme I wanted to paint them in. Let's bring the camera back down again. So it kind of just added to my sort of like my backup painting collection, and just kind of sat there, and you know, every now and then I'd get it out and open it up and have a look at it and think, oh man, this is so cool, I really want to paint some of these up and get gaming. Because one thing that I'm definitely not a fan of is sort of playing with unpainted miniatures. I just can't bring myself to do it. So again, like I said, it just sat in the background, and eventually, maybe, I can't remember the exact amount of time, but within a year, they decided to bring out like a rehaul all some of the major fleets. So they brought out new box sets of naval battle groups, and I ended up getting a Japanese version. So you can see that it's more or less the same sort of ships that you got in the Shadow Hunter set, but you also got I think that's a light cruiser or a heavy cruiser, and you also got a carrier, and that really appealed to me. So I ended up getting one of those and the same box set for the Americans. And again, you know, I got them and I looked at them and I thought, oh yes, this is amazing, I've got to start painting these. And yet again, for some reason, I just couldn't bring myself to decide on a colour scheme, and again it got added to the background. So now, the final part of the story, probably about another year or two after that, they brought out another smaller starter set, and that was this one here, which was Battle for Iceland. And this was a lot cheaper. I think this was about £30. And you can see almost immediately that the thing that kind of drew me towards this was not only having a couple of other nations' fleets in a smaller sort of setting, i.e., you know, just like 2 or 3 squadrons, that you also get this amazing scenery. And you also got things like, I mean, it came with sort of a quick play style of the rules, but the coolest thing, other than the sort of the actual main fleets and scenery, was that you also got a Perspex movement plate. And I thought for £30 this was like an amazing deal, so I picked it up. And again, same old story. It got added to the mountain, and basically put in storage underneath my painting desk. And literally about a month ago, I just suddenly had this urge to start painting them. And the very first thing I did was, in a 5-day painting frenzy, I basically finished everything in that Battle of the Atlantic, or Battle for Iceland set. And I'm just going to show you. I'll show you the Covenant of the Antarctic fleet first. I decided to go for my own colour schemes on these. Let's just bring on. These are the sort of their versions of sort of light carriers. Let's just try and zoom in a little. Now I decided to put them on this white box because the actual camouflage scheme that I painted them in is actually blends them in quite well into the sea mat that I've got. So obviously that camouflage is doing its job. So I'll try and fit the whole fleet up here first. So we've got the 2 carriers. I'll tell you what they're actually called in a second. I'll tell you. So the carriers are called Kepler light carriers, and this sort of Perspex-y clear thing on the bottom is because these are semi-submersible, which is kind of strange. And then we have some what are these? These are Fresnel support cruisers. So we've got 3 of these. I'll give you a closer look of these in a second. And I'll just move those to the back. And then finally, well, not finally, but finally for the actual ships, we have, now it actually says on the box here you get 4 of these, but when I actually got them out and had a proper look at them, for some reason I only got 3. And when I was actually looking at the sort of their stats cards and looking through like the maximum size of their squadrons and stuff like that, I think that was actually a misprint, and that you're actually only supposed to get 3. So we get 3 of these, which kind of look a little bit like a submarine, but they're not. They're actually heavy destroyers. Plutarch heavy destroyers. And then finally, we've got a couple of wings of flyers. So we've got. This is actually one of the things that kind of drew me towards this game, was that my sort of love of sea battles also includes love of using aircraft. And although these are kind of strange in the fact that you get sort of like 3 little aircraft on one little base, kind of was one of the things that kind of really drew me towards this game, because I think that that to have a good tactical element of any sort of naval battle is definitely air power. And the fact that when they actually re-brought the when they sort of did a revamp and started bringing out the box sets, they came out with these little holder stands that actually hold your squadrons, and I thought that was a great idea. So you get these, because they're actually like separate, so you get like these little holders that hold your wings of aircraft. So that's the Covenant of the Antarctic fleet, and I'll sort of bring you in closer detail. So this is the sort of the light carrier, and you can see I went for this sort of kind of a sort of dazzle camouflage scheme. Actually, it turned out pretty cool in the end. I was just kind of experimenting, trying to come up with a scheme that was kind of similar to the one that was on the box, but in reality completely different. And I think it came out really cool in the end. And you can see that for some reason this particular nation uses like drones rather than sort of manned aircraft, and you can see the drones coming out on a sort of a launch system out the side there. I guess these doors here open up, and the drone cradles come out. So that's the light carrier, and or maybe just a carrier actually. It just says, yeah, light carrier. That's right. And like I said, for some bizarre reason, it has the ability to submerge. So you got two of those, and then next up we have the what are they? The support cruisers. Again, rather strange looking with this giant sort of cannon thing on top there. But again, this similar sort of colour scheme, and I kind of went for a lot more brass on these particular ships. I think it came out looking quite cool. So you get 3 of those in a unit, and then finally for the ships we have these Patriarch heavy destroyers, which kind of remind me of sort of submarines. I thought they were like submersible when I first saw them, but they're not. They're just a normal sort of ship. Again, you can see this, again that's sort of same paint scheme, and that's those. And then the flyers, I kind of went for a very simplistic scheme on these. You can see that they're just kind of grey with a little bit of a different colour on the sort of nose. They're nothing special, to tell the truth. I think some of the other nations' aircraft look better, but it does the job. And I also kind of added some sort of clouds, and I think for their base, simply painted black, and I just used some steel, Vallejo steel, on the sort of like dystopian wing at the corner there. So that's the Covenant of the Antarctic fleet. So I'll put those to the back, as they probably disappear into the mat with the camouflage. So let's get those out of the way, and I'll bring up the Prussians next. So these are the Prussians. So you get, for the Prussians, you get 2 Havel light carriers. So we have one here, and again they've got a slightly different camouflage scheme. This is kind of again based on the colours that they used in the box, but I kind of did my own sort of style. And we've got some sort of deck detail on the carrier there, with some aircraft, and again that rather nice scheme. And let's give it the old camouflage test, and once again it almost disappears into nothingness. So yeah, that's obviously does its job. So we've got 2 of those. Here's the second one, more or less identical. So that's the 2 light carriers. Next up we have the support cruisers. These are called Donnerfaust support cruisers. So here we have one of those. Again, using that similar sort of Dazzle-esque type camo. And again, I think they came out really cool. I used a dark German camo dark brown for their decking. I think it came out quite cool. It's sort of like, it still looks wood, but it's dark enough to help add to the camouflage. It's I suppose you could say they're kind of dull looking, but it's certainly, as you saw when you put it onto the sea mat, they kind of disappear into nothingness, which is kind of cool. So you get 3 of those. And finally for the Germans, they've got their version of their destroyers, and these are called Stoltz destroyers, and you actually get 4 of these in a squadron, unlike the misprint on the box of only having 3 of the other type. And these are obviously, you could say that these are kind of like the most boring models to paint, just because they're like, you know, they're really tiny and there's not much space to actually do much sort of camouflage on them. But I think these particular ones are slightly better than the support ships that come with the Americans to the Japanese. Certainly better looking. And the Americans, all the sort of the Federated States ships have got these paddle wheels, which are kind of strange. But yeah, I think these come out pretty cool. They're obviously probably going to be cannon fodder, I'd imagine. So I'll just put those up there, and then if I just bring the camera up just to show you the sort of the fleet of them so far. So like I said, this sort of whole starter set was only about £30, and I think it was great value. Now for the German aircraft. These I kind of based these on a you can see they're kind of quite cool looking. I used sort of a grey and dark grey camouflage, which was based off of a sort of a Focke-Wulf's camouflage scheme, and I think they came out quite cool. And sort of the grey kind of fits in with a sort of a naval-esque camouflage scheme. And although, again, you know, they're so small that you can't really put much detail onto them, I think they came out quite respectable. So you get two wings of those. So I'll add those to the pot. So that's the Prussian Flake. So now we'll get rid of those, and I'll show you the terrain that came with it. Now this terrain obviously was the main factor of me deciding to get this set, and obviously the price had something to do with it as well, because like I say, for £30 I think this box set was amazing value. Yeah, so you've got basically 3 cool pieces of terrain in this starter set, and including this massive fort here. And I'll obviously bring you in and give you a closer look. Okay, let's start with this. So this is obviously some kind of a gas platform or something like that, and I think it came out pretty cool. I wanted to give it a sort of very metallic look, so it's basically all metallic, and I just sort of brought out the pipe work and sort of brass just to give it something to sort of stand out. And I again used that sort of dark German camo dark brown for the sort of the decking. I think it came out quite cool for such a sort of basic piece of terrain. I think it looks great, and it's a solid piece of resin as well. So there's that. Next up we have this rather cool oil rig platform. So again, you know, very basic. It had one of those sort of clear plastic legs, and you kind of connected those to the resin platform, and it's got a metal crane and a metal gun placement, and again painted in a very sort of metallic-y iron kind of paint scheme, again with that sort of dark German camo brown, dark brown decking. And I think it came out again pretty cool. I mean, it's not masterly painted by any reasons, but I think for its job, I think it came out really cool. And again, a great piece of scenery for a Dystopian Wars battle. And then finally we have this behemoth, this giant fort, and again I decided to go for a very metallic-y, well, probably 85% metallic, maybe even 90% metallic. It was a little bit annoying to put together. We have these, the middle section and these end sections being made out of resin, and these connecting arms are all metal, and also obviously the cranes as well. And you basically, so you had to, I think it was, they kind of connected to this part okay, but they wouldn't connect to this part okay. So in the end I kind of decided to use milliput to help stick it all together. So I actually used milliput, and that seemed to work quite well. You stick a bit of milliput and you stick your piece on, and then you push the milliput around to give it some support, and it seemed to work quite well, and it's pretty sturdy. It hasn't fallen apart since I finished it at all, and it seems to be quite sturdy. You can, you can feel it's very stable, and it's nothing's wobbly or feels like it's going to come off. So I think, and if I just do a sort of move the camera over this way a little bit, so basically for like £29, or well £30, you basically got all this, two sort of small fleets and all that scenery. I thought it was, absolutely cracking value. So that basically got my Dystopian Wars fever going, and literally a few days after finishing these, I decided to pick up my Japanese and my American fleet boxes and actually start work on those. And I really wanted to, to paint them in a sort of World War II-esque sort of colour scheme. I really didn't want to like go for the sort of colours that they seem to have chosen for them. I thought they were like quite boring. So I kind of scoured the internet for some inspiration, and in the end, my Japanese fleet was kind of based on a Japanese camouflage, and my American fleet ended up being my own version of an American World War II colour scheme, which was originally kind of used just on destroyers, but I kind of adapted it to sort of cover my whole army. And then the idea was that when actually it was the starter set that I started on first, and I kind of decided to paint the both starter sets completely different from the starter set colour schemes. So initially I would end up with two different fleets of the same nations, but again using World War II themed camouflage. So let's start with the Operation Shadowhunters box set ships. So this was this was the very first set that I got for Dystopian Wars, and I think, like I said, I think this was about £70, and you get two sizable fleets for the Japanese and the Americans, and you also got a nice piece of terrain, and this newer model of this sort of Terra ship, Japanese Terra ship. So we'll actually start with the Japanese, and we'll actually start with that Terra ship. So this is actually called let's find it, the Wani Terra ship, and it comes with like its base. So let's bring that into shot. So this is the Terra ship base, and and I was really chuffed with the way this came out. I kind of based it on, this is the sort of the camouflage scheme of my Japanese fleet as well. And on the box, this is painted up really ornately, and you can see that I've got the Terra ship underneath in its sort of base, and you can see that it's a really cool piece of scenery. It's like sort of like a very sort of traditional Japanese sort of temple looking thing, but it's just, and it's on kind of just these floating stilts, and the Terra ship goes underneath it. And I'm not sure if the whole base sort of disappears as well, because the Terra ship's got this ability to sort of camouflage itself. But I thought it was a really cool piece of scenery, and I love the way that this the sea is kind of moulded onto its base as well. So when I painted this, I decided to, because I actually painted this last, I actually decided to continue the sort of colour scheme of my fleet on the actual base itself, and I think it came out, it was quite a cool decision, and I really do like how this turned out. Yet from the top, because I used that sort of tan colour for the floor effects, it kind of still looks kind of quite regal from above. And if I get the Terra ship out, here we go. So we'll start with the Terra ship. So this is the Terra ship. And you can see I've gone for this sort of grey camouflage with these thick black stripes, and I've just liberated the sort of brass head on the front, because it looks as if most of the Japanese ships have got sort of brass for their sort of battering rams and stuff. And yeah, I think it's a very basic model. It's all one piece, but the cool thing is that you also get the stealth version of the same ship. I thought that was quite a cool idea. So that is the Wani Terra ship, and I think it came out really cool looking. Okay, this is going to be a really long video, by the way. So that's the Wani Terra ship, and if you look inside the actual thing, you can actually see the indent that actually takes the ship there. And I think when I painted this, I used this colour called electric blue for the sea, and then I used sky grey to sort of put in the wash, and then I gave it like several coats of this Vallejo gloss varnish onto the sea to give it sort of a shiny look. I think it came out really cool. I'm quite proud of it. In fact, I'm actually quite proud of how all my Dystopian War stuff turned out in the end. To think I was so scared and so unable to make my mind up about what colour schemes to go for. It seems to be quite a common niggle of me when it comes to painting things that I haven't got a set sort of colour scheme to paint. Is that I kind of get all nervous about what colour to paint them and end up sort of leaving them. So next up for the Japs, I think we'll go for the support fleets, the little tiny ships. These are, you get two fleets of these little support ships in the box set, and I'll tell you what they are as they come up. I'm just going to actually just move the whole Japanese fleet over. I think that's everything. Oh no, it's got the cruisers to bring across. Hold on. There we go. I think I've got the airing. Yeah, the airing's there. Right, so we'll start with, like I say, the support ships. So these are called the Fujin class corvettes, and you basically get a squadron of 5 of these. So here they are. You can see it's quite a basic model, quite small. I've added the sort of the brass ram at the front, and I kind of decided, I thought about at one point to make the sort of the striping thinner, but I think it kind of looks better, sort of being in a sort of similar relation to how it is on the other ships. So you've got 5 of these, and they've all got individual colour scheme, so they're all slightly different. They're not all exactly matching. And so I'll just zoom in, try and get a good shot of them. So there we go. That's the, I think, was it Fujin class corvettes. Not exactly the most amazing fun to paint, but they look good when they're done. So that's the Fujin class out the way. Next up we have another small ship. We have the Owatsu class frigates, and I'll show you one of those. So here we go. So these, although they're very, very similar in size, these are actually more expensive and more powerful than those Fujin. They've got, as you can see, the broadsides on the side there and a turret on top, where these kind of more or less, I think they only have like a turret. Alas, perhaps you only get 4 of these in a squadron and not 5. So they, and again, I went for a custom. Each ship has got its own custom variation of the same camouflage, so that they're all sort of slightly different. And we'll put those down for a closer look. So there we go. So that's the Owatsu class frigates. So get those out of the way. Next up, we have the Honshu cruisers. Now these ships are kind of different in the fact that you can actually swap out the middle section. Here, there's like basically like a, let me show you one of the ones that are unpainted. If we find the bag of the things. Where are you? Temporarily. Oh, there we go. I decided actually not to bother making these particular ones swap outable. You basically get like a section here. Let's bring it in. So you get 3 different versions of these drop-in bits. You get a sort of a giant rocket pod. I think this is a kinetic node dispenser or something like that, which I'm not 100% sure of what it does. And you also get like a turret. Here's the actual piece minus the actual gun piece. So on these particular ones, I decided to just stick them in, and I decided that on my second set of them, which comes in the fleet box, that I would actually either go through the palaver of magnetising them, or because they are kind of, they sort of sit in there quite well. There's sort of a recess, so that it is actually possible to just leave them loose and still actually play a game with them without them falling out too many times. That I'd make the second load of them actually swap outable. But I kind of decided that for these particular ones, I'm quite happy with them just being rocket launchers. I think rocket launchers are kind of cool. So we have just the rocket launcher configuration in these, but they're actually only stuck on. I actually used plastic putty to stick these on. So it's actually possible that I could just quite easily just snap that off, scrape out the plastic putty and stick a second piece in. Actually, all the things apart from the metal pieces, I actually stuck on with plastic putty, and it seems to have done a really good job. And to think that sort of plastic putty, you could just quite easily snap it back off. For interchangeable parts, it's almost a sort of good idea just to plastic putty stick them in, you know. But yeah, as you can see, it's quite an odd looking ship, but I kind of liked it because it had a more of a sort of a flat surface to be able to paint the actual camouflage scheme onto. And of course it's got the classic Japanese World War II naval black top of the funnel, which all my Japanese ships have got. and again it's got a sort of a bronze, these are actually torpedo launchers at the front here, and it's got this sort of, it's almost like a train type looking front, which is kind of strange. But that is the Honshu cruiser, and again all three of them have got, these have got a little bit more closer camouflage scheme, but they're all sort of manually painted, and all slightly different. I have probably more followed the colour scheme on these, but I think that's just by fluke, because I didn't particularly try and copy each one, I just tried to make them similar. So that is those. And again, you can see that this particular box set has got quite a decent sized amount of things in it for the money. Now this is the Battleship. Obviously the Terra Ship would come up next out in sort of size, but I've shown you that already. So this is a Kaiju class heavy battleship, and quite a cool looking ship, and a sort of very similar style to those cruisers, or were they cruisers? Yeah, cruisers. So this is the Battleship, and you can see it's got these two giant turrets with rocket launchers on. The turrets were resin, and the guns were metal. So again, these turrets are stuck on with some plastic putty, but these aren't swap-outable. And I think it came out really cool actually. Again, it's got sort of a custom variation of the same colour scheme, and it's got this sort of lighter wood decking. There you go. And then finally for the Japanese fleet, we've got the air wings. Now the air wing in this particular set only came with like one set of flyers. So here they are, and I've actually done them in the sort of the zero sort of your classic white-esque zero colour scheme, which actually isn't a white colour at all. It's because I've actually got like a here's the Airfix 75th anniversary of Pearl Harbor set, which does actually come with a zero, and it actually came with that's the actual colour there. It's matte beige green, and it actually came with a little pot of it. So I thought, aha, I will use that very same colour to paint up some of these Japanese flyers. And I think they came out, again, for the sort of the detail level on these little things, I think they came out looking quite cool. So you've got a wing of those, and I think they came out quite cool looking. So that is the Japanese side of the Operation Shadowhunter box set. So again, let's just get these out of the way and we'll go into the Americans. Now, after I finish the American side of the things, I've only got the Japanese box set done. So I'll go into that, and then that'll be the end of the video. But I will show you the American side of the Shadowhunter. Is it Shadowhunter? Yeah, Shadowhunter. So let's start with, this time we'll start with, we go the opposite way round, so we'll start with the American Battleship and work our way down to the smallest. So here is, I'll get the name of it actually, so I've just covered the box off. Here we go. So this is the Liberty class heavy battleship for the Federated States of America, and it's essentially a giant paddle ship. I'd say out of all the sort of fleets, I'd say that it's actually the paddle wheels of these ships are, although it's a really great idea, is probably my least favourite part of the Americans. But you can see this is quite a beast. It's got two giant single-barreled gun turrets, and it's bristling with sort of heavy Gatling guns and cannon. And I kind of went for this, like I was saying, it's kind of based on a naval US Navy destroyers dazzle camouflage scheme for World War II, but I kind of did my own version of it, and it's actually I think it's 4 colours, or maybe even 5 colours, starting from a sort of a dark sea grey, going up to like a lighter, I think it's light sea grey actually, then a sort of a Luftwaffe blue, and then a sort of field blue, and then finally going into black. So quite a few colours going in. I think it came out okay. It's again, my plan is to paint the American fleet different from the fleet that came with Shadowhunter, to add some variety to it. But I think it came out quite cool. I'm very happy with how it turned out. And like I say, I really didn't like the colour schemes that were on the box. But let's actually bring that in and show you. So you can see that on the box they kind of went for a very sort of almost like a metallic-y type paint scheme. I think that's kind of quite boring, and if I bring my version in, I think it looks better. It may not be painted as better, but it certainly looks better, I think. So that's the sort of meaning behind it. So that is the Liberty class. I think it's a Liberty class. Yes, Liberty class battleship. I think it came out okay. So, and this has got a swap-outable part here as well. Again, I've decided not to make it swap-outable. I'll just put in there. I think it's a shield generator. I decided to go for. But again, it's only stuck on my plastic putty, so if I did particularly feel like swapping it out, I could do with a little bit of work of just having to paint it up. But I think it's probably quite easy to just say, you know, it's got this particular function, and that will suffice without having to actually swap it over. So that is the Liberty class battleship. Next up, one of the things that was again appealing about this particular box set was that you actually got 2 ships that were unique to this set at the time. And one was obviously the 1E Terra ship and its base, and the second was the Federated States of America's version, which was the Boston class large submarine. So let's bring that in next. So this is the Boston class submarine, and again it's a great model. It comes on this again a sort of a sea base, and the cool thing about this little sub is that if you look at the back there, you can see it's got like a sort of a launch rail and a little sort of submersible submarine popping out of some bay doors there. And these things are called turtle attack subs, and you actually get 6 stands of these little turtle attack subs, which are on sort of like their own little sea base, and I thought that was really cool. So you can basically get like 6 of those. So let's just bring those up. So 6 stands of these little turtle attack subs. And 2 more. And on top of that as well, so you've got the fully above waterline version, but you also get the submerged version. So you can see here, again, it's an amazing model. You get all this amazing sea detail, and the same ship submerged. And I actually tried my hardest to actually match the camouflage scheme of both, so that it kind of still resembles the fully above water version. But it's a great model. And to think that you have to buy, I think the company that has taken over from that brought the Spartan games out, Warcradle, I think they are now, are actually re-releasing this as part of their like nostalgia range, and I think that you have to actually buy both of these versions separately. So it's you know, it's quite a wad of money there. I don't know exactly how much they're going to charge for it, but that was so I think that makes getting that set a particularly good deal. And of course, I don't know what you'd have to do to get the turtle attack cells. Perhaps you still get those with it. So that's that. Going down again, so we go now down to the Georgetown Class cruisers, and these ships have also got 3 drop-ins, and again I decided to just go for one particular choice at this particular moment, because to tell the truth, out of the other choices that are available, I probably will always go for the rocket battery, which is what I've chosen. So again, that same sort of camouflage scheme. We've got this giant battery of rockets coming up through the middle, and we've got one of these giant turrets on top, and 2 of these Gatling positions at the front, and two double cannon positions at the back. And all my American ships have got this sort of tan decking. I think they come out pretty cool. So that is the Georgetown class, and again they've all got their slightly different camouflage schemes, because I did each one separately and not copied the other, which I think looks better than them just being uniformed, and obviously it's a little bit more fun to paint as well. So that is the cruisers. Now finally, what I'll do is I'll actually bring all of the American support ships up at once. I'd say that these ships are actually the most boring to paint out of all the Dystopian Wars ships that I've painted. They're okay in their own right, but I think they're kind of boring. So we have the first up, we have the Augusta class frigates, and then we have the Revere class corvettes. So this is one of the frigates. Let's just bring it in there, and you can see it's a one-piece kit, quite small, not a lot of sort of side profile to do decent camouflaging on, but I think it came out okay in the end. And again, all of these have got their own sort of separate camouflage schemes, because there's no way I could keep those uniformed. So that's one of the frigates, and you get 4 of those in a squadron, so we've got 4 of those, 4 frigates. So there's another one, and the final 2 there. So there, just dropped the turtle attack subs. So that's those. And finally we have probably the most boring ship to paint in the entire American fleet, which is the Revere class of corvettes. And you can see they're really simple. They're literally just a tugboat superstructure with a giant paddling wheel in the middle, and 1 cannon battery at the front. And again, they haven't really got much of a side profile other than using the actual paddle wheel. And I decided to actually incorporate the paddle wheels into the sort of camouflage scheme rather than painting them, wood or sort of metallic. And although it may not be fully realistic, I think it looks better. And you get a squadron of 5 of those, so that's probably another reason why they're kind of quite boring to paint. So 5 of those, what are they called? Revere class corvettes. Now let me just pick up the turtles I dropped. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we're going to the final part of this video. I know it's been a really long video. I thought about doing a separate video for each fleet, but I thought no, I'll just do one giant video, because I haven't been on here for so long. I'll give you something to take up half an hour with. We'll start with, so this is now going into the Japanese fleet box. Oh, actually, I forgot to show you the American flyers. We'll quickly do those. So here are the American flyers. Quite cool. Kind of remind me of a sort of a modified sort of Corsair. So I went with this sort of the blue camouflage scheme. I think they're quite cool. Again, very simple. Completely no painting skill involved at all in them, but I think they look okay for the sort of distance that you basically look at them from, which is more or less from you looking at them down onto the table. Quite cool. So that's the American flyers. So let's just quickly clear these up and we'll get into the final part of this video, which is the Japanese fleet box. And then we'll be done. So let me just find the actual, here we go. So this is the, I'll bring up the box again. This was, like I say, this was, these are probably about 4 years old. They came out about a month after they released the Operation, what was it called again? Shadow Hunter? You know what I'm talking about. So this was kind of like the rehash of the fleets after they brought that out. And the main reason I decided to get it was because of having a carrier. I really want to have a carrier. And you also got the added bonus of having a battle cruiser as well. So again, the basic plan was to come up with a different colour scheme that was still based on Japanese World War II-esque colour scheme. We'll start with the Kaiju class battleships. So we've got a second Kaiju class, and I'll bring it in. You can see it's got a completely different colour scheme. This is a lot more sort of plain Japanese Navy. If there was any more of the waterline showing, obviously there would be a red line underneath. But you can see that again it's the same configuration. It's got a slightly different attachment here. There's 3 different attachments you could fix, and I decided to go for a slightly different one. But I don't, like I say, I don't think it particularly matters about having to swap them out. I think it's quite easy to just proxy in what you've got there. I think this particular one allows your ship to have a speed boost, which could be quite handy for a slow lumbering beast like this. And I was really happy with the way this colour scheme came out. I was really worried that it would be like too plain. And you can see that I kind of went for that same sort of American tan colour on the deck, and I think it really stands out well. And goes really well with this sort of grey colour scheme. And I actually changed it around a little bit. I used a dark sea grey rather than a light sea grey, which I used as the base of my first fleet. And I'm actually really chuffed with the way that this colour scheme came out. It's very simple to do, and I think it's almost better than my first sort of fleet. So that is the Battleship, and of course it's got the trademark black funnels. So that is the Kaiju class Battleship. Next up we have the Carrier. Now the Carrier I based on a late war Japanese carrier colour scheme. And I think it came out really cool. I added a little bit of my own flair to it as well. So here we have the Japanese carrier, and you can see that I've put 2 different variations of aircraft on there because I actually decided to use some green camouflage or green paint aircraft to sort of show sort of, bombers or torpedo bombers against the sort of white-esque matte green colour, whatever it was, for the Japanese fighters. And I kind of tried to replicate a Japanese deck scheme. Obviously this deck is a particularly odd shape, so it wouldn't exactly work, but I think the way that it came out in the end was certainly quite cool. and certainly in my eyes. And if we keep going around, I'm actually starting to get low on battery as well. So you can see it's got this this kind of, I think it's actually, I actually used Italian tank crew, this actual colour is, and it's kind of like a very a green-esque grey, I suppose, and it kind of goes into a black stripe, and then it's got like a dark grey, and the deck is actually a darker grey still, and that kind of goes up over the superstructure, going around, and we've got the green again, and coming onto the other side we've got the dark pattern coming up again. I think it turned out really well, and you still got a bit of that green coming in there as well. So this is called the Kiyomi class assault carrier, and I was pretty chuffed with how that turned out. So that's that. So we'll just move the battleship out of the way and leave that there. Next up, we're going into the familiar territory of those Honshu class cruisers again. So this is the new variation of those, and you can see again the plain sort of colour scheme, and like I said, this has got the turret on it, and I've actually left them loose this time so you can see where it's actually comes out, and it's got like decel there as well. It's pretty cool idea, and it's got a recess that it sits in, so it's quite, you know, it's very, very loose obviously, but it's not loose enough to actually just fall out by you just moving the model around. So again, very basic colour scheme. It's got that sort of same tan wood and the black funnel, and I think it came out really cool. And again, obviously the other two will be very, very similar. So there we have those. I did actually forget a class of ship that actually goes above that, the heavy cruiser, which is actually called a Mizuchi class battle cruiser. So we'll just move those out of shot, bring that in here. So this is the Mizuchi class heavy cruiser, quite cool looking. Again, that same colour scheme with the black funnels and the tan wood, and you can see it's got this rather strange, almost bullet train-esque looking section here, and the torpedo tubes. It's got 4 torpedo tubes on the front there. It's got a heavy turret there, heavy turret at the back, and some broadside cannons going along the side. And it's also got one of these attachments here, which I think again I've put on the speed booster version. There's basically 3 options you could choose from. So that is that.